Hi, everybody. Hey, it's great to see all of you. Thanks for showing up on the beginning of this holiday weekend. Um, we're going to wait a couple of minutes before I start, just so people can hop on. Lori, drop those things in the chat again, just in case anyone didn't get the template. We're going to put that. There's a whole bunch of links, but that'll be the first one. And don't worry about it. You can just watch. You don't have to make along. Does anybody have questions about the supplies? This is pretty basic this time. Okay. And you can type anything in the chat that you want. Where's everybody today? Just type where you're chiming in from. Chiming in, zooming in. Nowhere. Oh, here we go. Michigan, Calgary, Colorado Springs, England, yay, Missouri, Oregon, Colorado, Maine, Florida, Hawaii, the UK, a couple of you in the UK, welcome, good evening. California, Las Vegas, Victoria, awesome. Okay, I'm gonna wait one more minute and then we'll get started. Minnesota, welcome. So welcome, it's great to see everybody. Let me just tell you what we're going to do here. I'm going to give a short little presentation about the Paper Year, which is my membership program, and this is why we're meeting today, in addition to making this crown lantern. And I'll answer any questions you have about that program. Then we'll get to making. And at the end, we'll do a little show and tell, maybe take some screenshots of what you make. You're always welcome to post on Instagram. I'd love to see what you post there. And if you tag me, that makes sure I'll see it. And then also you can tag the Paper Year. Okay, and I have Lori here. Lori is my Zoom assistant, and she will be monitoring the chat right now while I'm presenting. And yeah, type anything into the chat at any time, we'll get to that. Okay, so let me share my screen.
Helen, there's a question about 110-pound paper. What is that in GSM? Do you know?
It's cardstock. It doesn't matter, any kind of cardstock that is for just making your template. So something that you can cut out and trace. Thanks for the question. Sorry, I don't have the exact answer. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and do a little keynote presentation. And it's probably just going to be 10 or 15 minutes. So for those who don't know me, I run a paper making studio high up in Colorado's Rocky Mountains, about 2 hours up into the mountains west of Denver, near Vail and Beaver Creek ski resorts. And as an artist, I create artist books and installations. I'm super interested in paper weaving. On the left, you see the beginnings of an alphabet book that I'm currently working on, which involves making a base paper. So I make handmade paper, featuring each letter of the alphabet, and then weaving a variety of decorative papers into that. And then on the right is a lantern I created last summer for a library down in Denver, which is now hanging in Vail. So if anybody's coming to Vail this summer, it's at the Vail Public Library. In addition to making art, I have always been fascinated with paper as a material and all of the ways that it can be manipulated. So I spend a good deal of my time designing unique projects, and I feature these in the Paper Year, but also in my how-to books. And I'm actually working on a book about paper weaving now, which will come out in 2025. And these are my other books that are currently out in the world. So the Paper Year is a membership program that I started in January of 2021 to inspire members with a technique and project each and every month. In addition to gaining skills for working with paper, members become part of our paper-loving community. Here are a few highlights from the last couple of months. And please note that if you join the Paper Year now, registration opens today, you will gain access to a growing library filled with past projects. There are over 2 years worth of projects in the library that you can access right when you sign up. In April, we made mini tunnel books. We explore projects in the Paper Year that have been designed or reinvented by me or other artists, and other artists. This tunnel book was originated by Ed Hutchins, reinvented by Laura Russell, and pushed further by members of the Paper Year. Shoot. Okay, hang on, my screen froze. I can't access my thing at all. Lori, can you stop the share and then I'll just
Yes.
restart it? Thank you. Okay, let me try that again. Okay, good. Members in the all-in plan, and I'll describe the plans in a moment, participate in an online classroom where we share our work in progress, ask questions, and give each other feedback. In May, we explored this reverse piano hinge album. And one of the things I love most about the Paper Year is seeing the way that members approach the projects. Everyone is so unique, and it is truly inspirational to see what others are creating. Every quarter we have a guest artist, and this month we've been exploring a waterfall mechanism. This is a historic structure that Marianne Petit, our guest artist, re-engineered and animated. It's going to do it again. Sorry, when I push other buttons. Okay, I can stop the share now this time though. Sorry, guys. And then I'll just go back in. Okay. Every quarter, we also have a surface design workshop. So we explore how we can create unique papers that then we use to construct with. And this is a live online workshop, a 2-hour session. And this past quarter, our guest was Melanie Mowinski, author of the book Collage Your Life. She showed us how to work with the figure in collage. And it's always really fun to see each other's work. And again, we share what we're creating each month in the online community forum in Rizuku, which is the teaching platform that I use. So this is a question I get a lot. This is not hosted on Facebook or anything. It's its own program. There are 2 ways to join the Paper Year. All of this is outlined on the registration page, which is one of the links in the chat, along with a video about the Paper Year. But just briefly, PDF subscribers receive just that. You get a PDF on the first Monday of every month, and you're good to go. All-in subscribers pay a little more and receive the PDF, video instructions, and a couple of monthly Zoom meetings online, which I'll talk about in a moment. And as you can see here, you pay by the month for either plan. But at the beginning of every year, there's an option to switch over to the annual plan, and you get 2 months free if you sign up for that. And I do want to make clear that this is a subscription membership, so you'll automatically be billed every month, but you can also cancel at any time. This is what a monthly PDF looks like. These are available to download and or print out. And this gives you an idea of what a monthly video looks like. As I've said, you will also have access to this wonderful online community where we share our work, provide supportive feedback, tips, and tricks. All in-plan members meet on Zoom twice a month. We often have a special guest at our monthly Zoom meeting, which will either be a guest artist, a paper supplier like Shanna Lano, who makes tools, is our next guest artist in September, or supplier, or a surface design workshop instructor. We also have a 2-hour monthly open studio Zoom session where you can carve out time to complete the monthly project, and we spend time getting to know each other and share paper tips and tricks. Oh, it worked this time. Here's a peek at what we're doing during the third quarter of 2023, which begins on Monday. That's when the lesson will be in the classroom. We'll create a pop-up pyramid. This structure folds in half and could be a book page or a sculpture. I love objects that are diverse and you can do different things with. We'll explore ramp walkers in August with Andrew Dewar, an origami artist and author living in Japan. And this cobweb structure is a delightful Victorian structure that's created from a single sheet of paper. And our surface design workshop will feature repeat patterns with Alyssa Solomon, and that's coming up really soon on July 8th. And she runs Blue Skies Workroom. So that is the paper year in a nutshell. I hope you'll visit the link that's in the chat to watch the video trailer, read more, and sign up. And maybe you'll join us as we continue to explore this versatile medium. So let me know if you have any questions. My cursor again is weird. Lori, can you stop the share? Sorry.
Okay. Helen, just because somebody usually asks this question, I'm going to go ahead and ask it.
Okay.
If you're on, the monthly plan or whatever, and you have access to everything in the past, if you cancel your membership, do you retain access to those things?
No, that's a great question. And you don't. So you lose access once you cancel. So I recommend as you go along that you download and print out the PDFs so you can keep those forever. But the videos and the community are all, it's a subscription. So you do lose access. Okay. No questions? All right. So you can still ask them anytime. So let's get on to making this project. So Lori, you could spotlight my hands. Okay, and this is a pretty simple project. So I'm going to try to talk about a lot of different elements about paper and construction and things. So, so you got the template, hopefully, that was online, and cut out six of these shape. And today I'm using just regular printer paper. So that was one recommendation. And I'll talk more about these in a moment. And then let me show you a few other papers, and I'll have some samples that I show at the end. So this is Hanji, which I recommended. This is a Korean paper. It's flexible, but it's got some body. That's what I like. And it comes in a variety of colors, like maybe 20 different colors. And it's fairly translucent. So if you're making a lantern, you want the light to come through the paper and for it to look good. Some papers don't look that good when they're illuminated. So I always hold my paper up to the light to see what it looks like. Others, you might think they don't, they won't look good, and they do. So it's really interesting. There's something called Konyaku And I got this from Washi Arts, but there's several suppliers that carry Japanese papers and products that are listed in the chat. And most of them carry this as well: Paper Connection International, Washi Arts, and Hiromi Paper. And this is a traditional Japanese powder that you mix up with water. I'm not actually doing a demo today because it wouldn't dry quickly enough, but it creates a gelatinous solution, and then you paint it onto your paper. And in Japan, they actually crumpled the paper, and this is a long time ago. It's still made today. And used it like cloth to sew clothing and different garments. So I want to show you a couple of different papers that you can purchase that are already treated and crumpled. So this is called Kiyoseishi, and this is listed in the chat as well. And Kiyoseishi is colored on both sides, and it comes in a variety of colors as well. And so it's a beautiful paper cloth. And then there are, I happen to pick up the same, no wait, this is the same. Let me see, I've got another sheet here. Well, I don't know where I put it. Oh, here it is. Okay.
Helen, can you say the name of the product that coats the paper again?
Yeah, Konnyaku. I didn't list that. So Konnyaku, Konnyaku.
From Washi Arts.
And Paper Connection and Hiromi Paper also carry it. This is a pre-made or a machine-made, sorry. So Momigami is the paper. It's called Momigami, Momigami, after it's crumpled. And this is a machine-made variation that's white on one side and colored on one side. And it is, it's a little stiffer and sturdier than the true Kiyoseishi. It also comes in a variety of colors, not quite as many as the real thing. So this is just the same. And then I have an example that was made with Chiyogami. So Chiyogami is another Japanese paper, and we talk about all kinds of papers every month in the paper year. Well, a specific paper for the project. So Chiyogami comes in about 700 different patterns and designs, and it is also would work well for this project. You'd want to use one. This is an example where you'd want to hold it up to the light and see that it looks nice, because there's some beautiful patterns, but maybe they have a black base, so the light isn't going to come through it quite as well. And then this is just a handmade paper. This was made by Nick Cladis at the University of Iowa. It's got an interesting pattern, and it's double-sided. And then sometimes you have papers, you just don't know what they are. So I'm not sure what this is, but it's also an Asian paper, and it's got a nice crispness. So I know it will stand up well. So the sample that, you know, you've seen in the promotion for this is turned inside out right now, and I'll talk a little more about it. I actually don't know. I think someone hand dyed this, and I don't know the origin. I can't remember where I got it. But when you crumple it, you don't want it to be too limp. You know, you want it to hold its shape to some degree. So that's what we're looking for.
Helen, I just want to interject. Remind everybody that in the links that I'm dropping into the chat, the top link is the template and supplies. And so you can click on that if you don't have the template. Also, somebody asked, how tall should the template be? They're thinking that somehow they've printed it small.
Oh, okay. Let me measure it. It's 8.5 inches or 21.5 centimeters. It will work at a different scale. So don't worry too much about that unless it's like super teeny. Okay, so I'm not remembering. I think I asked you to cut these out. Do people have these cut out, 6 of them? Or do we need to spend time doing that? Can someone just type in the chat who's prepared? I didn't look at that page. Ready? Okay, yeah. So I think I asked you to cut them, but I said we would crumple. So I have a couple that I crumpled. And I just painted my printer paper with watercolor just to make it a little interesting. And so check this out. I'm sure some of you who do a lot of working on paper will notice the difference between these two. So I did some Zentangling. Now I'm not a Zentangle expert, although I did it before it was a thing as a kid. And this one I put the watercolor on afterwards, and the ink bled a little bit, so it really became kind of a dull color. And this one I did the Zentangle after I painted it, so that's a better approach. And so you can just crumple your paper.
So Helen, you're suggesting crumpling any paper you're using,
Yeah.
just copier paper.
Yes, but you don't have to. Well, let's see. I'm going to show you. I'll talk about this one at the end. This is a different shape where I have a crumpled paper, and then I did not crumple this one. So if you think your paper is going to become too weak by crumpling, I wouldn't. And certainly these structures do not have to be crumpled. I think it's just a fun technique. So, and you could do, as I just showed in that one, some crumpled, some not crumpled. The size, they're going to change a little bit in size by crumpling, and then you get a little smaller. In Japan, they when they make the momogami, they really crumple. I have to say, I've never seen an actual demonstration by an expert. I've taken a course. Linda at Washi Arts has a wonderful course on this, treating the paper with konnyaku and making momogami. But I'm guessing if you saw the real thing, it would be fascinating to see how long they crumple and how many times. And it's probably just in their bones because they've done it. And paper making is passed down from generation to generation.
And in the archive in the library is the one that
yes, we had a surface design
paper
workshop, right, with Linda.
So you can learn how to do it for free.
Right. Thanks. Jackie's asking if momogami means crumpled paper. Yes, I can't be like 100%. It might be slightly different translation. It could mean paper cloth or yeah, I've never thought about that. The exact. All right. So I've got 6. You could do this with 4 or 5. So the number of panels is variable, just depending on how large you want to make this, or small, or tall. And let me talk about adhesives for a moment. So I mentioned 3 in the page that you've already visited. So I love running paper through a sewing machine. I can't do that in this small Zoom space here. But, and you can see if you're a sewer, I had some knotting issues with my threads. But I just zip this through the sewing machine, every single seam. And I made fairly small seams. They're about 1/8 of an inch or 1/2 centimeter, 2 to 3 millimeters. And I stitch on, well, obviously this is a form that's brought into the round. So it was flat until I stitched the last seam. But with sewing a form this small, you pretty much have to join it inside out. But the fact that it's crumpled makes it really easy to turn it right side out, just like you would a sewing garment. So I'm not going to do that yet though, because I'm going to show you something else that I'm going to do to this at the end. You can use double-sided tape. I would use the thinnest one you have. This is 1/4 inch. If you had 1/8 inch, there is 1/8 inch double-sided tape. I would even use that. And I'm going to use glue. And I have PVA glue, which is polyvinyl acetate. It's archival, it dries clear, and it's the standard bookbinding glue. And it is in this little dispenser that I get from the lamp shop, which is in the chat in the supplies. However, I just learned that they're closing after 65 years. So that's sad. But these, you can get similar glue applicators from Micro Mark and in art supply stores and other places. The thing I like about this is it has a small applicator and it is refillable. So the top comes off and you can reuse it. Okay, so let me just see a show of hands. Are you ready to proceed? Like literal hands, or you can do a reaction, raise your hand. Okay, I see lots of people waving. All right. So let's move along, and this is being recorded if for any reason you need to go back. So this is just a pattern I made up, and you could try your own shapes after this, and I'll show you at least one other or two. I've got two. So now you want to just decide the order. If you need to think about the order of how these will be glued together, because you're going to glue one to the next. And mine doesn't really matter, which is good. Since I'm teaching, I won't make a big mistake. But also, which is the front or the back, if you have a front or a back. If you have a paper that's white on one side, it's visible. It's on the inside, but it's visible. So this is another one I'm going to do something with. So that's just something to consider. So, and then let me just show you. You can glue. I'm going to have all of my seams on the inside, and this is somewhere where you might make a mistake where if you have a front and a back, you accidentally glue one seam differently than the other. But look at this one. The seams are on the outside. Hopefully you can tell that. So I glued like this. And so my actual seam is out here, but I thought structurally that looks interesting. Okay, and this is a different shape, obviously. So you can have the seams on the outside. And when you start out, it doesn't, it's not so apparent which is going to be the inside or the outside. But I can see a little bit of my printing, which I think I'll cut away later. But if I glue these two edges like this, then I'm going to, they're going to be like this ultimately. So this will be the outside. So I'm going to glue the front to the front, and that'll hide that black ink. And you might want to put some scrap paper down, but I'm just going to put a bead of glue or a piece of tape all the way up until this starts to curve. So I'm not gluing the top. Those are free, like flower petals. And so I'm going to squirt this glue, hopefully. Just filled it. And I don't want it to. Hmm. There we go. I'm going to put a thin bead of glue just along that edge until I reach where it's starting to curve. There's not a perfect point. It doesn't really matter. So often I brush my glue out if I have a lot of it, because I don't want it to ooze out all over the place. But I do with this crumply paper. I want to make sure that it adheres in all of the little crevices, so I don't have a hole in my seam. So I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to take my second panel, line up the bottom, and then just attach those. And if I put the right amount of glue on, it's not going to ooze out onto my cutting mat, but that's why you might want scrap paper. And then I'm going to go and I'm really going to press so that adheres. Sometimes I use bulldog clamps, these little clamps, not usually at this scale, but you could, if you could clamp that while it dries. I'm going to open it up just to see there's not too much glue oozing out, but be careful, it's still wet, so it could come apart. And I'm going to go ahead and do that glue 2 to 2 to 2. So I have 3 sets. So I'm going to do the same thing. Again, I said my order doesn't matter. If you have an order that matters, like panel by panel, that you want to go in a certain way, I could just keep gluing the next one and end up with 6, but I'm going to make 3 pairs of 2. So this is the front. I'm going to glue these 2. If you have any questions, just pop them in the chat there. Okay, and then I'll do my 3rd set. So I didn't say this, but I kind of flatten my 2 panels out so they look similar in size, so they're not all crumpled up. It's pretty obvious. I had some Zentangles hiding underneath this one. Forgot about. So now I've got my 3 pairs. And while you're finishing that up, I'll just be thinking about whether it makes any sense to glue them together in a certain way. I think I'm going to do them. I'll spread the Zentangles out a little bit. Now, if I weren't doing this in a workshop, I would let these completely dry, just so I don't risk accidentally pulling them apart because the glue is wet. But if you're careful, it's fine. And you just re-glue it if something happens. So, how are we doing? All right, I'm going to give you 1 more minute and then I'm going to move on. All right, so I think again, it's pretty obvious where we're going with this, but now I just want to make sure that I keep all my seams on the same side. And so these are my front of my panels. Let me just get back. I was looking at gallery view so I can see myself. Okay, so this is the front and the seam is on the inside like that. So now I want to make sure when I add this one that I glue like this upside down. So then the seam will be on the inside. So if I set these next to each other, they look similar to how I was just gluing. So it will turn out correctly. So I'll just do what I just did, but now I'm gluing 2 to 2. Well, 1 to 1, but they're connected. So I'll have 4 altogether. It is nice to work on your flat surface, so I'm not gluing this in the air. I can line things up nice and neatly on top of my cutting mat. So I put it down in that way so I can press with my finger along my cutting mat rather than trying to glue 2 things in space. Okay, so I've got those 4. And now I just want to take a moment to think because I make mistakes all the time. So now I'm going to glue these 2 edges like this. So I put glue here. Flip this over. Line up those edges, again, using my table surface to press the glue and get those seams to adhere nicely and line up. Okay. Now I'm going to glue these outer 2 seams together. And the easiest way to do it is like this, but then I will have to turn it inside out. So I'm going to make sure, I'm going to show you a few other things while it's drying, because when you turn it inside out, you're stressing the paper quite a bit and you could pop one of those seams. There have been situations, I do lots of structures like this. So there have been situations where I've had to glue seam to seam like this, but that's really awkward getting everything to line up. So it's just much easier to glue them. So I know I need glue on the outside, and then I'll just flip this over and connect it. So I'll bring this edge over, line that up. I'm pressing also just because that the paper is uneven because it's crumpled, and it might not adhere somewhere if I don't press the glue into those little crevices. And so I might get a hole. So I really like to pinch the paper. Okay, so there it is. It's inside out. So hopefully you are all progressing nicely. Is anybody like right with me, like almost done? Okay, I see 6 panels. flat, ready to go into the round. Fabienne is done. Awesome. Heather gives it a hand, raises her hand. Do you have a question, Heather? Or are you just saying you're done? Liz is done. Okay, great. I'm scrolling between all the screens trying to keep up. Elaine gives it a thumbs up. Okay, I wanted to show you a few other things. So if you're still working, that's fine, but you might want to watch what I'm doing too and just take a break. Okay, let me show you this ring. So I mentioned the lamp shop is closing. You can get rings from other places. I accidentally put 3-inch ring on the supply list, but this is really a 4-inch ring. And this is an actual lamp base that you could wire, but it's only because I didn't have just a ring at the time when I made this. So I'm going to go up a little higher. So you can see a little more here. Okay. So this just gives it a nice sturdy base. I have also like packed these away and they've traveled with me, so they're a little unwieldy, unruly. It adds weight and a circular bottom. So I just wanted to show you how I would attach one. So I've got this other form here, and I've got here, it's called a lamp. The bottom ring, the other one was the top ring for the wiring. So this is just a steel ring, and I've got it fit in here. It's a snug fit. Took me a little time to get it in there, so I'm not going to pull it out, but I think you can see it's in there. And I've got a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch or about a centimeter extra. I call this a seam also. And I would just put glue on there. And wrap it around. And glue it to itself. So I'm gluing the paper to paper, and that is encapsulating this ring. So I just do that a couple inches at a time, work my way around. And that gives me a nice solid base, and it also adds some weight to the paper. Now, if my edges were really uneven, I might trim them before I started gluing. And I actually started, when I started working with paper almost 30 years ago, I made lamps and was covering forms, wire lampshade forms. So some of these techniques come from that, from covering different shaped panels. So see, I'm just sandwiching that ring in there, and that gives me a nice base. And then I can crumple and move these pieces. I kind of like how they look organic as well. So here it is from the side. Now I have one other idea I'm going to show you, which is just to use a piece of cardstock. So this is actually just a manila envelope. Heather's asking, is the ring glued on first, then let dry before finishing the seam? No, I didn't glue the ring on. In lamp making, you would glue the ring on. I just, because it's such a small form, I just wrapped the paper around and glued that. I think that's what you mean. So I just did it all in one movement. So you could also just add some stiffness at the base with a piece of cardstock. So I have this, again, I said manila envelope that I can wrap around here. And again, because the paper has the wrinkles in it, it helps that I don't have to have this exactly the right size, because I can smush when I'm gluing. I can move the paper around and it'll just be another wrinkle. If you had a paper that was just straight, you might want to be more accurate. But I'm just going to overlap and make a ring. So I'm going to do about 1 centimeter, 1/2 inch overlap. Make a ring. So I obviously did test how it was going to fit, and I could see this is pretty accurate. Now I've got this inside out still. This is my stitched one. And I'll fit that ring back on there. And then, I could, this is 3/4 of an inch, so it's kind of wide. I'm not going to cover it, although I could fold this all the way up so it's covered completely, but I'm going to come down a little and just glue it on there. So it's a little different than the wire ring. Because I'm gluing paper to paper, I'm just going to glue that on there. And this will be on the inside. So just for the sake of time, I'm not actually going to glue this whole thing. I'm just going to fold it over. And I will glue it later. And put a little glue just to hold it.
So Mary is suggesting, what she's thinking of is using some cane, splicing the cane and gluing it together with mulberry paper.
Yes. That's like, do we do a project in the paper year? I mean, I do that with the Cho-Ching, or maybe you took my Cho-Ching lantern workshop where you splice, and yes, that would be a great base. I didn't even think of that. I should have demoed that. So that's reed or cane. And I like to use number 4 or number 3 round reed. So now, let me take my actual one first. So I'm going to turn this inside out. I think it's going to be easier to take the pointy edges and push them in. I could be wrong. Someone could try the other way. And carefully flip this. Now, if you didn't wrinkle it, you're going to get some wrinkles now. And be patient. Don't expect this just to go quickly. You kind of have to work from underneath and on top and push and pull. I think it's kind of fun. And there are my ends coming through. I'm going through now, and sometimes I do this before, just kind of reinforcing at the seams. So I'm opening up the paper all the way to the edge of those seams. And I'm kind of pushing the seam back and forth as well, so it pops into the middle rather than falling to one side. So there is my crown lantern. I would do the same thing with this one that I just put that ring on. See how that turns. It's a little more awkward than the ring of wire because it's a flat ring. But it's going to come through too. The advantage of the wire over the reed is it's heavier. But I like that idea of reed. The paper is also, my ring here is very light. But it gives it a base, right? So the last thing I want to show you, or two more things. So let me show you some different shapes. So, you know, we started with this shape, but you could do any shape. You could even combine multiple shapes. I think the only really important thing is to have your base be flat. So you want to think about that. So here's a shape. This is just 4 panels. It's more of a trapezoid. I've got my seams on the outside right now. This is even a different paper that I applied the Konyaku to. You can hear it. It's crispy. I'm not sure what it is. It's not my Abaca. I don't know. I actually flattened the edges out here a little bit to make a base. So just so many things you can do once you get your pieces together. I started thinking, oh, let me fold that to create the base that way. This is kind of tiny. It actually looks maybe more interesting this way, but it would fall over pretty easy because it's big on the top and small on the bottom. So you'd have to figure out a way to weight that bottom to keep it from falling. Oh, Kathy's asking what pen I used for Zentangle. Don't ask me. It was just a black pen. I don't have Zentangle pens, so I don't know if that's what you're asking. It wasn't anything fancy. And
Go
yeah,
ahead.
Roseanne's saying since 6 pieces, she'll try a hexagonal base. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm curious how you will make it. You know, you could cut foam core or something, you know, and maybe stack a few pieces together to create a shaped base. So yeah, so that was like a trapezoid shape. Is that the shape? Trapezoids are wonky. A 4-sided shape, whatever that shape is. Heather Scott and Jackie have listed some good pens for Zentangle. And then this is just a rectangle. And I used Kiyoseishi. The light comes through this white paper really beautifully. I don't have a good way to show you right now. And then another paper that I didn't crinkle it. So, and you can change the number of panels. So this is 4 panels, but I could have 6 or 7, you know, so lots of variations. The projects we do in the paper year, we like variations. We like thinking outside of the box. And then finally, I wanted to show you a few lighting mechanisms, which people who are members of the paper year have seen these before, but and I put links to these, the Amazon links for these. This is a puck light, you know, that you usually put underneath your counter in the kitchen to illuminate. You do have to press it on and off. So in some situations that's not practical, but I can turn that on and then put my crown lantern. And you'll see the light's going to come through differently in the different papers. This one, because I've got that top ring, I have to put it in this way. This one illuminates nicely as well. And then let's just see my paper that I just used. I actually like it. It lights up nicely. I've got a lot of ambient light in here. But you could even devise, this is not too much bigger than the light, so you could with Velcro or some other, I mean, if you were having an event outside, you could even put a rubber band and then fold the paper up or to hide it or not if you didn't care. Maybe bury it in the ground a little bit so you don't see the rubber band. So there's so many options. And then I often use these little battery operated tea lights, which you turn on, you just screw on and unscrew off. And then these are popular for weddings, these little fairy lights. This particular one has 3 different settings. So blinking slower, and then just staying on. These fairy lights also come in lots of different colors. And so you can just loosely put those in your object however you want. And they look kind of fun too. So those are the kinds of lights that I like to use. And yeah, we almost made it to the top of the hour. Let's see what you've made. So hold your lanterns up. Oh, fun. Melita's got a multicolored. Oh, Elaine used a batik paper. That might have been hard to glue. Maybe not. Oh, someone else did too. All right, Laura, just keep holding them. Lori's taking a couple screenshots. If have your video off and want to turn it on. Liza even has light in hers. Ooh, and Jackie has a wonderful paper. If a couple people want to pop on, we could pin you. If you want to share, raise your hand. We'd love to see yours up close. Raise your hand in the reactions, if you would, at the bottom, so we can see. Okay, and Jerry, I'll get back to your question. Okay, there's Roseanne. Oh, you use pins. Are those pins? How clever.
Yes, I have a millinery background, so I have a lot of pins and made the top wonky and folded the pieces differently.
I
Scrunched some.
love it.
Yeah, very fun. Thank you so much. I love this.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Okay. All right, Lori, you want to call him? You want me to?
Heather.
Heather McDonald.
Mhm.
Oh, look at that. You can unmute yourself if you want to say anything.
Hi, no, I just wanted to say thank you. I love making these lights. They're so much fun, and I did your paper and light course and the paper year course. Now I'm in the second one, so I've done it for 2 years, and it's just wonderful. There's
Oh,
so many great things to make, and it's just a blast. So thank you so much.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Okay, next is Margaret. Sorry. Okay.
Okay, yeah, you're muted. Oh, you got 2 people and you made 2.
There you go. All right. No.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't. Whoops.
You're good. You're good.
You're good.
Didn't make
Yeah.
you, but my sister came and joined me.
Yeah, wonderful. Beautiful. Thank you. What lovely papers as well. All right. Next time we'll make them big enough to fit our heads.
Okay, next is Elaine. Hold on. Okay. There. Yeah.
Oh, look at all those papers.
So, I mean, unmute.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. We hear you.
So, a combination of batik papers and the lot. Is it called latka? Latka?
Yeah, Lukta.
Right. So mine's almost
Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Thank you.
really fun.
Thanks for coming, Elaine. All right, everybody. I saw the question. Let's see. Jerry wanted to see the lantern side view with the fairy lights. Can you just spotlight my hands again, Lori?
Yes.
It's hard to see because I've got so much ambient light in here, so I don't know that you're really gonna
I'm sorry, hold on one second. Okay. There we go. Yeah, there.
Okay. Yeah, here are the fairy lights. They aren't quite as bright as these other lights, so I'm afraid you're not really seeing much right now, but in a dark room, they would light up. And it's kind of fun to look in and see all these little lights. Okay, any other questions? I see lots of thank yous. Thank you for coming. Have a wonderful holiday weekend if you're in the States. I'll send the recording to you with information about signing up for the paper year. I hope some of you will join us. And see you next time. Thanks so much.